Bola, my name is Clarence. I am a video editor full-time. Whatever other time I can get to myself, I like to illustrate. So I'm a video editor and freelance illustrator. I do comic books. I'll do comic art, and I illustrate all kinds of things. My main passion is I like drawing things from the Pacific. Most of the time, I like to draw for my inspiration from that. And I like to mix that in with like the superhero stuff that I like or the horror stuff that I like. Yeah. Forever, like ever since I could remember, I've been drawing. I studied it like properly in 2002. I studied visual arts at the then FIT, and I did animation in 2004. But yeah, always loved drawing, just wasn't ever able to make money off it. So I had to do other things. Biggest inspiration for my art is, like style-wise, I love a lot of the artists from the 80s and 90s in comic books. I love artists like Frank Miller. I love Mike Mignola, who does like Hellboy and things like that. Recently, some of my favorite ones are I like this guy named Josh Simmons and Guy Davis. They have like this, I like artists that have a really loose feel to their work, because my art, I like to keep it very loose. And recently, I've come to make a very specific distinction with what kind of artist I am. I'm not an illustrator. I am a comic book artist, but I consider myself a cartoonist. Nice. Yes, I like to have sort of like, yeah, a more loose, minimal style with my comics. And I do my drawings. I think about animation. So I always I try to keep my characters moving. I hate drawing static shots. So I like drawing pages and I like drawing panels that look like the characters are sort of in motion or coming out of a motion or going into a motion, things like that. So that's how I approach everything, like as if this was going to move or as if this was going to be animated. And some of my biggest inspiration for my work comes from animation. I love Genndy Tartakovsky, who does Primal and Samurai Jack and things like that. And there's a YouTube channel that does this series called The Reward. Oh, it's called Tales of Echelon. And this, yeah, like animation is probably my biggest influence outside of comic books. It's called Salaniyalo, and it was originally done as a project, a mini research project for a unit that I'm studying at USP. And when I found out I could do either a painting or a spoken word or something for it, I asked my professors, hey, could I do a comic book? He's like, yeah, sure. So originally I was gonna do like 5 or 6 pages, and it just took a life of its own. I wanted it to be about the Itoke tradition of the 100 Nights, where when someone passes away, people sort of have this, for lack of a better word, like a ritual they do over 100 nights, which they believe helps the spirit in the afterlife. But while researching that, I came across a story called Salaniyalo, and I found 2 accounts of it, both of them from the 1800s. And I was thinking, like, this is such a cool tale. It's a tale of a shade, a yalo, or a spirit in the afterlife. And it was sort of chronological, his journey, and I was like, I'll just draw this. This is so cool. So that's what my comic's about. It's about a Fijian warrior, a Bati's journey through the Itoke afterlife. Biggest thing for me was the research. I wanted it to sort of be, I didn't want people to read it and go, hey, this is BS, this never happened. I mean, even though the whole thing is sort of like a mythological story, or like, I don't want to call it fictional to diminish anything about it, but it's like a story. But I wanted to research it to make sure the journey was okay. That's why it was nice to get 2 accounts of it. So it wasn't just some dude who's like, hey, this is a story that I found. Like 2 people from like 50 years apart in 2 books. One was called The King and People of Fiji, and the other book was called, I think it was called Gods and Ancestors of Fiji. And so I found the story in there. So I read about it a lot. I read about, it's a story about a shade's journey through this place called Nakamvandra, which is a very physical place. I think it's in Off-Rewa River and all that kind of thing. And then it also has a spiritual place. So I had to research that. And then as far as the character designs and everything, I wanted everything to be based on like Itoke imagery. So I looked at like effigy statues and serving bowls and things like that to get all my character designs. So I wanted every part of it to be from Fiji. Like for example, there's a character in the book, there's a bit in the book where the hero has to cross a river, and I drew a ferryman. And at first it was like a skull head rowing a boat, and I was like, this is boring. And then now he's based on an effigy statue. These statues that were originally sort of made in the Solomons, and then the influence came to Fiji, and then things like that, you know? So I wanted every part of it to be from Fiji. So that was like the biggest thing. And art-wise, at the time I was reading a lot of Tintin comics, and I was really getting into the clean, minimal lines of like French and European comics. And I decided that I wanted the book to look like that. And plus, with the 3 weeks time constraint that I had for the book, I thought it would sort of make the work easier. Yeah.
3 weeks?
Yeah, I did it in 3 weeks. It was 22 pages in 3 weeks. And I did the last 6 pages on the last weekend. Because I was working with this really cool guy from the Ministry of Fijian Affairs. His name is Master Simoni Sevundrendre. I call him Master because he used to teach at Suvagrama. And I would meet with him to make sure that everything I was doing was sort of like authentic as it could be. But every time I'd meet him, he would bring so many stories that if I had to go and meet him and I had like 4 pages left to do, I'd go back home and I'd draw another 6 pages, you know? So even on my last weekend, when I had 4 pages left to do, I had met him that week. Or he had sent me some stuff that week. He constantly kept sending me material. And so I ended up drawing 6 pages in the last week. But yeah, that was the process for it. Yeah. Well, okay, well, I have an Instagram page. It's Nerdwala, @Nerdwala. Yeah, just sharing about the book, and maybe if you see my social media stuff, the more you share it. That was the whole purpose of the story. I wanted people to learn about these cool things that used to happen in Fiji, or these cool cultural things. So if you like it, just share it, and the more people who see it, the better. And yeah, that's what I wouldn't mind. As far as more Pacific and Fiji stories go, the person I was working with, Simoni Sevundrendre, he sent me so much material that I could be drawing things for the end of the year, you know. So there's a couple of other stories in there, because the story of the Shade, there is sort of like a direct story of what he does in the afterlife, but there's also all these weird one-line mentions. Oh, he got caught by these cannibals, or he got an axe in the chest, and then he did this, and then he did that. I would love to flash those out. And plus, if you've been following me on Instagram, I have my own character that I've been trying to get off for a while. He's called the Mangrove. So I've got a whole story for the first issue. I've been drawing that story over and over, the first 2 or 3 pages, maybe 2 or 3 times now, because every time I draw it, I feel like I'm not good enough. So I keep drawing it. I've got a lot of stuff too many things to be drawing. You know, the funny thing about my art, no matter how much I draw and how many likes I get, I don't think I'm still convinced that I'm an artist, honestly. Every time, like one time the very first time I decided to draw a comic book, I drew a Batman fan comic. It was about 16 pages, I put it online, and in 24 hours it got like 170,000 views and like thousands of shares and stuff. And I was like, wow, this is so cool. But I was thinking, even then I was like, really? You know, like these people like this comic, you know? I did it for practice. And then I started doing this Ninja Turtle comic, and I would release it page by page. And that got like hundreds and thousands of views as well. And even though I would do the pages, and then every page I would put out until someone was like, "Wow, that's great," I was never confident in it. So I don't know. I still feel like I'm learning as an artist, and the way I circumnavigate this is I see myself as a storyteller, and I look for stories that are worth telling, and I want my art to just be good enough to get that story across. For your question, like when did I realize I was an artist? I don't know, it hasn't clicked yet. I haven't realized it yet. I still think I'm just I don't know. When it happens, I'll message you.